Okay, so first of all, let's look at price elasticity of demand. Now, the first word that we're going to focus on here is the one in the middle, elasticity. So what do we mean by the term elasticity? Well, what we're thinking about here is really responsiveness. So what we're saying is, how do consumers respond when there is a change in price? So let's start with some real basics. So we know that if price goes up, the number of consumers that are willing and able to buy a product will go down. And we also know that if the price goes down, the number of consumers willing and able to buy the product is going to go up. This creates an inverse relationship. Okay, and that's why we see a downward sloping demand curve, right? But what we do know is that that will mean that when we calculate price elasticity of demand, and we'll come to this in a little minute, is that there will always be an outcome that starts with a minus sign because of that inverse relationship. So, next, we've got different types of price elasticity of demand. We've got price inelastic demand, which suggests that consumers are not very responsive to a change in price. Or we have price elastic demand, which means that consumers are quite responsive to a change in price. So think about what might affect elasticity. So it might be the number of substitute goods, it might be the variety of products that are available, it might be simply that you have a differing amount of time. So consumers might react differently over a period of time. In the shorter term, they might be loyal and relatively inelastic, but over time, they might decide to try one of your competitors, and that might mean that over the longer term, you might have more price elastic demand. So now let's consider how are we going to calculate price elasticity of demand. So there's a formula. The formula is very simple. It is the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. And that will give us our PED, our price elasticity of demand. So, first things first, let's just look at this percentage change. That's important that what we're going to do is we're going to focus on how do we calculate a percentage change in something. So if we go from a quantity demand, if we go from 30 consumers to 40 consumers, how are we going to calculate a percentage change in that number of consumers? So we take the change, 10, and we divide it by the original value, 30. And that will tell us what our change, our percentage change is. Now, obviously, that's a fraction. We just need to change that into a percentage. So we do, it's effectively 1 over 3, which gives us 33.33%. Okay? So we know that there is a percentage change there. Okay? Again, we take the change, we divide it by the original value, okay, and then we turn that percentage, that fraction, into a percentage. And we can do that simply by typing in our calculator the number at the top divided by the number at the bottom times it by 100. And that will give us a percentage change in that amount. Okay? So let's do a worked example here, okay? And the same principles apply for price. Okay, we look at the change divided by the original value. So let's do a worked example. Imagine a scenario where we have a product that is selling for, let's say, 10 euros. Okay, so 10 euros is our price, our original price to start with, and we when we sell our product at €10, we attract, let's say, 200 customers. Okay? So we have 200 customers and our price is €10. Okay? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to change the price, and that will lead to a change in the number of consumers. And then we're going to see what has the percentage change in consumers been in regards to the percentage change in price. Are they proportionate? Is the change in price bigger or smaller than the change in the number of consumers? So we're going to go from €10, we're going to up the price to €12. Now, when we see an increase in the price, what we expect to see is a fall in the number of consumers, right? So let's say the number of consumers falls to, let's say, 120. Now, what that means is the extra €2, the value of that product, the price of that product's gone up from 10 to 12. That has dissuaded 80 people from buying that product. Okay, now let's do the maths. So we're going to look for the percentage change in, let's do the percentage change in price first. The price has gone up, so it's a plus. And we know it's gone up by 2, and the original value was 10. So it's plus 2 over 10. We're going to put that into a percentage, right? So it's plus 20%. Let's plug it into the formula. At the bottom, we have plus 20%. We don't even need the percent anymore. We just put plus 20. So let's see, what has that 20% change in price, what has that done to the number of consumers? Well, really straightforward. Again, we've taken the difference, the change. Now, of course, the number of customers have gone down, so it's a minus. So let's go minus, how much has it gone down by? 80. What was the original number of consumers? 200. So we've got minus 80 over 200. We're going to simplify this. Let's just half it to start with, shall we? It's minus 40 over 100. That sounds pretty simple now. That is a 40% change, isn't it? It has fallen by 40%. Let's plug that in to our formula at the top. So now we've got minus 40 divided by plus 20. Well, a plus and a minus gives us a minus. We knew that was going to be the case. And we've got 40 divided by 20. Well, let's just get rid of those zeros. 4 divided by 2 gives us 2. So we know that our price elasticity of demand in this scenario is minus 2. What does that tell us? It tells us two things. It tells us that anything over or greater than minus 1, so minus 1.5, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4, that is showing us price elastic demand. Okay? Anything between 0 and minus 1 is showing us that this is price inelastic demand. So what we're saying is, if you increase your price by 10%, you're going to lose 20% of your customers. If you increase your price by 20%, you're going to lose 40% of your customers. And this shows us relative sensitivity from those consumers. Okay, that is the first concept that we're going to cover today. That is price elasticity of demand. We'll go on from there.